Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Early Morning Barking Podcast, talking about BPD and MPD by somebody that has both. Today, I want to talk about the BPD marker, the lack of sense of self. You see this one worded very differently depending on where you're reading it. The lack of sense of self, the lack of self-image, which shifts, which is unclear. Basically asking the big question at the crossroads between psychology and philosophy of who am I? What am I? All these questions and more, our sense of self. It's a weird one to explain. As I say about every element of BPD, it's weird to explain. Because it is. It's weird to explain. So all the things that you know about yourself, about who you are, what you do, what your personality is based around, the things you like, that you don't like, your sexuality, all kinds of things. All of these elements that go into making up you as a person. People with BPD are somewhat unsure on what those things are. It will vary from person to person as to how unsure they are about particular things. But that's, for the worst cases out there, people will know nothing and be constantly shifting and unsure and panicking and not feeling right in their own skin one way or another. And at the other end of the spectrum, you might have somebody who's just like, I'm not sure I'm friendly enough. There's all, and everything in between. And the reason why I think this is such a difficult one for a lot of people, I think identity it's become a big deal in 2024. And my own observations of it are this. You see, I think that people who are caught up in their identity are using that as their identity, as their personality. And we see a lot of that go on Twitter. And I think that truly healthy people, from a mental health standpoint, don't take their personality and their identity from what they are. They take it from what they do. And so that's why you get CrossFit guy and plays guitar guy and works at such and such a place guy. We take our identity in a positive way from the things that we do in the world. Be they work, be they things we do for pleasure, whatever. The thing they have in common, I think, is that they are things that we feel passionately about. And I think that in an ideal, healthy state, you have the time and inclination to think about and feel passionate about external things. Whereas those of us who are suffering from mental health difficulties to a severe degree are very introspective, are very caught up, especially if you have BPD and this lack of sense of self, in this concept of identity. And because there are other contributing factors to our mental health problems, those further exacerbate this problem. So I talk about people taking their personality and their identity from the things that they do that they feel passionate about. And if you're someone with BPD, then things you feel passionate about are fairly thin on the ground, right? That for the majority of time that, when I was in the darkest times of my life, I didn't really have the time to care about something else. All I cared about was the amount of pain that I was in. And so I didn't have a life. The biggest piece of advice I give everybody with BPD is to do stuff that gives you a life, that gives your life meaning and purpose. Stuff you enjoy, stuff you feel passionate about. And that is a cornerstone, a big one, of getting better, of improving, of becoming the person that you want to be. Because to become the person that you want to be, you have to actually start doing it. You know? It won't just happen to you one day. You won't just wake up and be that person that you want to be. You have to start going out into the world and taking positive steps in that direction. And so I think the fact that we struggle to do those things, you know, I'm talking about stuff you do to get better, right? We struggle to do these things. If we could just do them easily, we'd do them and we'd be fine, and BPD would be something you had for a couple of months, right? It's hard. And so at the same time as we're unable to give ourselves any sort of identity or personality or life, we are struggling to find one. And so we land on the internal things, the things that are left over. And some of them we mirror from other people, right? This is a big one. This is where the mirroring behavior comes in this lack of sense of self, because there's a vacuum there and we have to fill it with something. And the thing we fill it with is the personality traits of people we admire for some reason. You know, whoever that may be, like friends and family, TV, fictional characters, famous people we read about. I nearly said in magazines, like I'm an old person. Ignore that. We get it from anywhere we can. Personally, I am a mishmash of Star Trek The Next Generation characters. That's just how it turned out. And we feel bad about that. You know, masking in BPD, in any mental health difficulty. I mean, that's a thing that happens a lot in MPD and indeed ADHD as well, where we're trying to copy what we feel is appropriate behavior, a good way to appear to the world, because we feel we're lacking that in ourselves. So we need to take it from somewhere else. And the trouble with doing that, really, is that we might try to force ourselves into a hole that we don't fit in, really. You know? And again, with identity being as emphasized as it is these days, the opportunity to do something drastic, upsetting, too hastily is all too easily found. There's so much opportunity to do something you regret in some way, shape, or form, or behave in a way, or, you know, try something or whatever, that we're sort of egged on by this. I don't know. It almost sounds wonderful. This voyage of discovery, right? This investigation into self. This is what gap year students try to do in India, isn't it? But we're trying to do it every day, and we're clueless. And some of us try everything and anything. We put our families and friends through goodness knows what, trying to figure out who we are and what we are. It's not a fun journey, and it's one without a guaranteed destination. Because, you know, as far as other contributing factors go to stress and anxiety and problems with doing this, we also split on everything. Is anything good for long? Right? It's possible to make some drastic changes to one's life and lifestyle in an identity crisis that one feels very bad about a few months later. Right? And we're just pushed to do this constantly. You know, as I say, for some it's worse than it is for others. You know, a lot of my own struggles are sort of reaction based, and behavior based. How should I behave? How should I react to other people in the world? Problems relating to other people and that sort of thing. And I've never struggled with sort of the what am I? You know, and that's got to be a lot of problems for people these days, because there's a lot of answers to that. And I think we live in a world where people have found answers that are unnecessary. I think we try and categorize too many things. We try and make things too specific. And everything that differs from what we feel to be the norm has to be given a name and is a thing. And it makes that person be that thing and gives that person that identity, because that's all they're caught up in their life. Right? It goes back to what I always say about the flags on the Twitter handles. Like, the more flags there are there, the less interesting you are as a person. And that's not meant as an insult. It's a serious observation. Because that's what you're caught up in. And that means that's all you're thinking about. And what I don't know what... God, getting into the philosophical side of things. If you want to ask the question, what is the meaning of life? What is the purpose of human existence? Why are we here? And if there's no answer to that, does it matter, etc.? But I'm pretty sure that of all the best ways to live your life, being caught up in your own identity is not on the list. I don't want to have to deal with it. Right? And you have to realize that for mentally healthy people, this is something they don't think about on any level whatsoever. Right? It doesn't come into their day-to-day. This questioning self-identity just doesn't occur to them. And the fact that we have to question this is in itself evidence that we're not well. Right? And so I think it can be a trap now. I think what we've done is we've found a way to become okay with existing purely in an identity-based way. Right? There are, if you want to spend all day, every day, talking about your identity and being concerned with how others perceive that identity and how others perceive other people with the same identity as you and that sort of thing, you can do that. You can do that. And I can't imagine a bigger waste of time and life. Like, that's not living. It's a hindrance. And I think, we need to look inside ourselves and realize that we need that, that this is a thing that we need to deal with, that this is a thing we need to face head on and start getting a life and becoming more about what we do rather than what we are. Because ultimately, we're part of a society, we're part of a culture. We're part of a bigger thing than just ourselves. And it's important to experience that. It's important to see what those things are out there that are positive, what life has to offer us. And I think one of the curses of BPD is that it makes us so caught up in ourselves. And it's not our fault, no one's a bad person because of it. It's we are what we've been made. Why don't we know what we like? Well, because maybe somebody told us for a long time, or maybe because we just took that from somebody else for a long time. Maybe we're trying to please our favorite person by doing everything that they like. So in an attempt to break away from that and asking ourselves the question, what do we like ourselves? Then we don't have an answer to that question. It's so multifaceted, it's so complicated, it's so deep. And ultimately, the answer in dealing with it is the same answer I give for so many of the other problems: to get that life, to go out and experience the world and its people and its cultures and societies and everything. The whole thing. To find things that you love, that you feel passionate about, that are a thing to do. And I think we're losing that a lot beyond mental health. But, it's so important for us. It's so important for us to do. That's how you get over any of this. And with regards to taking drastic measures when it comes to oneself, my advice is, as it always has been, do it tomorrow. Do it tomorrow. Don't shave your head today. Don't do that. If that's what you really want to do, I'm not telling you no. I'm just saying then you'll still want to do it tomorrow, right? You'll still be so excited about it tomorrow, so do it then. And you're going to do that because you know that you have a history of hating things that you've done the day before. Because we all do. I do. So, it's what we do. I hope that was in some way interesting or helpful. I don't know. Whatever. Feel free to share in the comments wherever you're listening to this. I don't know. It's a podcast, isn't it? It's on YouTube. You can put comments there. Like and subscribe. Hey, all of that sort of thing. Whereas in podcast land, I don't even know how it works anymore. I don't know. I invented most of it, then forgot how it worked because it got awful. Awful. Anyway, yeah, I don't like podcasts anymore, he says, on the podcast he makes. That's what I do. Splitting, you see. BPD. You take care. I'll see you later. Bye-bye.